Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Power Breakfast, Research and Innovation in Peterborough and Kawartha Lakes. This virtual session is intended to provide business leaders, thought leaders, and startups with a perspective on research opportunities in our region. For those of you who have not met either in person or virtually, my name is Michael Skinner, and I am the CEO of the Innovation Cluster. We have specifically invited representatives from Trent University and Fleming College to discuss what is available and how you can take advantage of the incredible research facilities, both at Trent University's Office of Research and Innovation, as well as the Center for Advancement of Water and Wastewater Technologies at Fleming College. If you're interested in accessing these resources, this is a perfect opportunity to make connections, understand what is available, and how you can take advantage of these facilities. Throughout the presentation, we invite you to use the Q&A option to ask questions. That's at the bottom of your screen, and we will leave time at the end to try and answer as many questions as possible. I always like to start off and thank our core funding partners. If it wasn't for these core funding partners, we wouldn't be able to offer the services that the Innovation Cluster offers today. And so we're very, very thankful that they continue to support us and have supported us for many years, as well as all of our other sponsors. So zone partners, program partners, knowledge partners, entrepreneurship sponsors, and community partners. If you're interested at any point in time to be a sponsor, please reach out to us at the Innovation Cluster, and we'd be happy to talk to you about our different packages and all the different programs that come along with it. The Innovation Cluster is made up of 6 startup superheroes, as we like to call ourselves. Basically, we're always supporting our entrepreneurs. So at any point in time, like I said, my name is Michael Skinner. I'm the CEO. We have John Gillis, who's our president, Rose Terry, who's our marketing manager and innovation specialist, Lana Dahl, who's operations and events manager, Kate Jackson, marketing coordinator, and Rachel Stark, our communications coordinator. And we have an amazing board of directors as well. Our board of directors is a volunteer board, and they're made up of a cross-section of our community, both in the Peterborough and Peterborough County, as well as the city of Kawartha Lakes. Now, a question a lot of people ask is, what do we do and how do we impact our region? Well, basically, we focus on 3 primary things. First is strengthening innovation and entrepreneurship capacity. So this is providing mentorship, advisory services, expert advice, workshops, and really working with the startup ecosystem to facilitate investment and increase really the whole innovation ecosystem that we have. Second, we help through all the process of assisting new company formation and growth. There's a lot when it comes to starting a company for your first time, especially when you're starting a company inside the innovation space. You've got a lot of aspects, whether it's intellectual property, cross-border taxation, just basically overall building that company from an HR point of view. All of that we basically help through our experts and residents to help facilitate and answer any questions that you may have when you do this. And last is we work from within the region to grow a knowledge-based economy. And our objective is to make sure that the region, both the city of Kawartha Lakes and Peterborough County and Haliburton, basically that we have a strong knowledge-based economy here, and that we're continuing to connect the different knowledge-based economy entrepreneurs together to really build a strong ecosystem. For those of you that would like to become a client, we're obviously always interested to have new clients. It's very simple. Just go to www.innovationcluster.ca, and there's a button at the top of the screen that says apply. You just need to click that. I also wanted to make a special mention. So we launched a program basically about a month ago called the Startup Visa Program. So this program is in conjunction with the National Angel Capital Organization, and we've been officially designated as of one of only 31 business incubators in Canada to basically help facilitate businesses to move into our region here within the Peterborough Kawarthas and the city of Kawartha Lakes in order for them to basically start up their companies from abroad and to go through that process. It's basically a 3-month concentrated process, and when it's done based on a recommendation, we would then submit some recommendation letters for individuals to be considered to basically go through and receive permanent residency and to move their businesses or expand their businesses into our region. And we're pretty excited because we just launched our first cohort about 3 weeks ago, and we have individuals from Asia, from Africa, from the Caribbean, of course the United States, as well as Kazakhstan. So great cross-section of great entrepreneurs, and I can see from the participant list that a few of them are on here this morning. So welcome to the first breakfast you probably had with us. Now I'd like to introduce Rhonda Keenan. So Rhonda Keenan is the president and CEO of Peterborough Economic Development. They're a key partner of the Innovation Cluster. And I'd just like to pass it over to Rhonda Keenan, the president, just to say a few words.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome and good morning, everybody. And as Mike said, I'm the president and CEO of Peterborough and the Kawartha Economic Development. We're the lead regional economic development agency for this region. And our job really is about trying to show how supportive the Peterborough community is to business when we're trying to attract new business to the region, but also the networks that we can offer businesses that are here to help them grow and expand. And so having events like this and partners like the Innovation Cluster and really showcasing our incredible talent and assets at Fleming College and Trent University are just some of the ways that we are able to try to entice businesses to say that this is the best place to do business. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy the webinar today.
Thank you, Rhonda. Appreciate that. And now I'd like to introduce Trent University's Office of Research and Innovation. They will be the first one to talk about the resources they provide in our region. And so we're very excited. We have two great speakers today. So Dr. Kathy Bruce is the Acting Vice President of Research and Innovation at Trent University. Prior to August of 2020, Professor Bruce was the Dean of Education, Teaching and Learning, and it was in that role since 2016. Dr. Bruce was a founding faculty member of the School of Education and overseeing all educational programs, online learning initiatives, and the Center for Teaching and Learning at the university. Her career spans both academic and administrative leadership and has been recognized as a leading educator and researcher. And we also have Dr. Naomi Nichols. Naomi Nichols is the Associate Professor of Sociology and the Canada Research Chair, Tier 2, in the Community Partner Social Justice at Trent University. Professor Nichols is the Principal Investigator for Social Sciences and Humanitarian Research Council of Canada grant called Data Justice, which is fostering equitable data-led strategies to prevent and reduce and end youth homelessness, and another called Building from Experience, which is youth-led strategies for homelessness, prevention, and housing stabilization. So I'd like to introduce both Dr. Kathy Bruce and Dr. Naomi Nichols.
Thanks, Michael.
Welcome.
I think I'll start. Thank you for having us. Power Breakfast is such a neat idea, and we're very happy to be part of this event. We might have wanted to start at 10 instead of 8, but we appreciate that this is a great way to get the day started. And being a math geek myself, I'm a math researcher at heart. I wanted to start by sharing some data from Trent's 2020 impact report. It's true that some of the areas of our relationships with Peterborough and the Durham region are hard to quantify, but I can say that Trent's economic impact is now about 678 million annually. We support directly and indirectly 6,200 jobs. Trent students are working 2.2 million hours of part-time paid work during an academic year. 75% of our students come from Trent, come to Trent from outside the Peterborough and Durham regions. So most of our students are from further afield, and our alum provide labor worth more than 3 billion annually in the greater region. So that just gives you a little bit of a context there. We have about 10,000 students, and we have both undergraduate and graduate programming. I'm delighted to be leading the research portfolio for the university. And I've always known that research at Trent's important and has tremendous impact, but in this a new role, I see that every day in my work, and it's absolutely energizing. So we have clusters and centers of research excellence in many areas, including the environment, water quality, DNA research and forensics, sustainable agriculture. We're moving into small scale farming, and we have excellence in aging and society research, biomaterials, and clean technology. And maybe I'd just pause now to say hi to Rhonda, and if Martin's on the line too, Martin Yule. Rhonda Keenan and Martin are great partners. The university is extremely proud to be partnering with the City of Peterborough and PCAD in the development of our new research and innovation park called Clean Tech Commons. So we're looking forward to our first multi-tenant building, which will be coordinating innovation cluster programming in the Trent Enterprise Center. It's a great example of Trent's community collaborations in research and development. And one signature theme of research at Trent that runs across the disciplines has to do with our direct engagement with community partners, with businesses, industry, in schools, with community agencies and important organizations such as the Innovation Cluster. And on that theme of innovative community-based collaborations, I'm really pleased to have this morning my esteemed colleague, Dr. Naomi Nichols, with us. Dr. Nichols is one of Trent's newest Canada Research Chairs. We call that CRC program. And we have 9 impressive CRCs at Trent. The Canada Research Chair program is a federal program that seeks to strengthen research excellence in Canada by attracting and retaining the very best researchers nationally and internationally. And the program improves the training of students and highly qualified personnel. It helps to build the university's capacity for collaboration and high impact research programs. So we have Canada Research Chairs in these fields, if you're interested: Feminist and Gender Studies, Study of the Canadian North, Integrative Wildlife Conservation, Media Culture and the Environment, Environmental Geosciences, Rural Aging, Health and Social Care, the Physics of Biomaterials, Environmental Archaeology, and, as you will hear now, Community Partnered Social Justice. So I really wanted to bring Naomi to this because I think it's interesting to think about, you know, community partnered social justice. Part of what we do in our work when we're building partnerships is thinking in a just way about how we're building those relationships, about those community relationships and what they offer to the whole community. And so I'm just thrilled to have Naomi with us, and I'm just going to stop talking now. And Naomi, it's your turn.
Thank you so much, Kathy. It is interesting to be at this breakfast because my research is focused on improving the lives and experiences of those people who have fared poorly under capitalism, to be honest. And so it's an attempt to imagine what innovation processes might offer in terms of our capacity to address social problems, rather than simply using those tools to generate profit. So it's a different approach to innovation, but I hope it's one that is interesting to people who care about issues of justice. So the research that I do is designed to improve the lives and well-being of young people who experience multiple and intersecting forms of social discrimination. And as Kathy said, all of this research, advocacy and action happens with young people, with community organizations, and in pursuit of changes to policies, programs, services, and institutional modes of functioning in the public sector. But before I tell you a little bit about some of the current research I'm doing, I want to signal that one of the research projects I led most recently in partnership with folks in the federal government and in the philanthropic sector was on social innovation and research and development, or R&D, in social purpose organizations. I'm really passionate about using research to find new ways to address long-standing social problems that have deep structural and systemic roots. There is an ongoing, for the business community, there's an ongoing cost to our continued inability to actually get to the root causes of any of these problems. We just simply manage downstream when the crises emerge, and that's an ineffective and unjust way to work. I think universities, government, and social purpose organizations could continue to work together to create, or should continue to work together to create and nurture a thriving innovation system that orients not to the generation of profit only, but towards solving the myriad social and environmental problems that have arisen as a consequence of our dependence on extractive, exploitative, and consumptive economic models. Fortunately, with the CRC, the Canada Research Chair at Trent, I will have the time and material resources to strengthen and deepen this type of work in partnership with young people, with community organizations, and also with the public sector institutions that are meant to ensure resources are indeed fairly distributed and that young people in our country, all of them, are safe and happy. And we know right now that young people are really struggling. I'm most excited about 3 projects, all of which are piloting new research methods and that all of which explicitly seek to drive innovations that serve the interests of Canada's most structurally vulnerable young people. The first is a project that I actually started in Montreal with one of my doctoral supervisees when I was at McGill and the youth homelessness sector organization Dans la Rue. For the last 2 years, we've been working with a peer research team, so young people who have experienced homelessness, which my doctoral student also has, to identify social and institutional determinants of homelessness by focusing on young people's experiences in a range of public systems, and particularly those systems that don't necessarily ordinarily see themselves as implicated in homelessness. So healthcare, education, policing, and child welfare, for example. Right now, we are finalizing a massive report on 3 of these systems, and we'll do the next 3 in a second part, with the intention of calling in decision makers to be part of the effort to prevent youth homelessness in Quebec. And then the report is coming here with us to Peterborough to ground the work that we're going to do with YES, the Youth Emergency Shelter of Peterborough, in order to ground an innovation process here. That is to ideate, prototype, test, refine, implement, and evaluate a multi-pronged cross-sectoral intervention that will attempt to identify young people who in our community who are at risk of homelessness, and then swiftly support them to stabilize or find housing, which would allow us to prevent them from becoming homeless or quickly divert them from the homelessness system. The second project relates, but is working slightly more upstream in partnership with child welfare institutions in Canada. It's a project on data justice. The first part of this project involved identifying and mapping all of the information or data assets that represent and shape young people's experiences in the provincial child welfare system in Ontario. And for those of you who don't know, within the homelessness population in our country, a wildly disproportionate number of those young people actually came out of our child welfare system. And so because of this, we're trying to work in partnership with child welfare to divert that flow. I'm working right now with Toronto Children's Aid to study how institutional practices and decision-making in agencies is transformed into the data points through which the system is increasingly operating. The idea is to identify concrete places where existing data processes, so for example, an evidence-based screening tool, puts young people at risk of a negative outcome like homelessness or trafficking, where existing data assets are compromised by infrastructural issues. So for example, racial and ethnic data right now is contained in numerous different fields in our provincial child protection information data or information network, which makes it really hard for us to monitor disproportionalities in terms of service outcomes across the province. And also where biased decision-making results in embedded that bias in the data set. Later, we're going to extend this work into the youth homelessness sector, and one of my incoming doctoral students is going to extend the work again into the youth justice system. Ultimately, all of it will provide us with an essential knowledge base that will support these public and social systems as they work to move more energetically towards data-driven decision-making and service delivery. We see these projects as really a foundational first step towards preventing institutional harms that are associated with predictive decision-making in all of these fields. Training algorithms to recognize patterns in a data set and then using these patterns to predict risk of homelessness or abuse is fundamentally irresponsible until we know for sure that the data are trustworthy, reliable, and not reflective of biased sampling or biased decision-making. And we don't, early research suggests that we are not at that place yet. The idea then is to temper our excitement or our zeal to try the newest tech thing with our commitment or obligation to first do no harm, and to make sure that our technologies are really used to enrich and enliven young people's lives. And then there's one final thing that I think is cool that I'm going to do as a CRC and that I hope will be useful to the community. It's a Research for Social Change lab that will exist at Trail College and will seek to sort of close the gap between the resources at the university and the data and research needs of community sector partners. The idea is to directly add to the capacity for communities, activist and advocacy groups, nonprofit service delivery organizations, and people with lived experiences of the social problems that researchers investigate to engage directly and knowledgeably with research processes, have access to and ownership of their own data, and participate equitably in evidence-based decision-making in relation to the issues that they care most about. So thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much, So thank you very much to both of you for that presentation today. It's great. And obviously, if anybody is interested in, there's extensive amounts of research that's being done at Trent University. If anybody's interested, I mean, you can always reach out to the Innovation Cluster, and we're happy to facilitate those connections. Next, we have two more speakers. We have Jennifer Anderson, who's the manager of Center for Advancement of Water and Wastewater Technologies, otherwise known as CAWT at Fleming College. Jen has an MSc in Environmental and Life Sciences from Trent University and 10 years of experience in managing environmental programs, combined with an acumen for business development. And Jen has been integral to the growth and expansion of the center. And as the Technology Access Center chair of CAWT, I can absolutely attest to that. Jen has done an amazing job with that organization. We also have Dr. Brett Goodwin, who's the Vice President of Applied Research and Innovation at Fleming College. He holds a PhD in ecology from Carleton University. Brett has over 20 years of experience in post-secondary education, has published multiple peer-reviewed publications, given many scientific presentations, and has won a number of competitive grants to his research, and also is an extremely intricate member of CAWT and has brought a lot to it since he's been there over the last little over a year. So I'd like to welcome both of them, please.
Great, thanks, Michael. I'm going to first just give a little brief introduction to applied research at Fleming College. Try not to take too much time because the real star of the show today is Jennifer telling you about what we're doing at the CAWT. So Jen, if you're ready to share. Great, thanks, Jen. And like I said, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to give you an overview of applied research at the college and then turn it over to Jen to talk about the CAWT. Next slide, please, Jen. And so I thought I'd start by just talking a little bit about what is applied research at a community college. It's a little bit different from the work we've heard about earlier today at universities. We're much more interested and focused on answering questions to real world challenges. And we tackle practical problems by applying the technology and knowledge to look at products and services and processes or to improve current products and practices. That's a definition from CICAN, an organization that represents colleges and institutions across Canada. And that's really the real difference, is that we're focused on working with partners. Not that it doesn't happen at universities, as we heard earlier this morning, but we're focused on working with partners to try and help them solve real world problems. Just a quick mention that applied research is a growing interest at Fleming College. We've had pieces of research, CAWT in particular, going on for over a decade. But where we're really in the last couple of years trying to ramp up research across the college. And because of that, a little bit of a brag this morning, we've been raising in the rankings at the Canada's top 50 research colleges, and we're recently announced to have reached number 23 out of 50 across the entire country, which for a college our size is really quite a good accomplishment. Next slide, please, Jen. So just to give you an indication of what research might look like at a college, because I think more people are used to thinking about research at universities. We can kind of break it down into three areas. We have major centers, one of which we'll be talking about today. Faculty and staff-led research, which is a growing interest at Fleming. We're doing more and more of this, but again, this usually works with an industry or community partner. I did want to point out at this point that we have a number of faculty that are interested in working with community groups and in asking questions about community related issues, including things like barriers to inclusiveness in policing, concerns around nursing and success of nursing students in remote communities. And we have a really interesting project getting up and running pretty soon, which will look at a particular approach to trying to control and stop sex trafficking. So that we're looking forward to that project rolling out pretty soon. So though we'll be talking today more about working with industry partners, we do have community-based research that we're doing as well. And then the third sort of research that goes on at Fleming is more driven by students. And these are what you would be familiar with as capstone projects and credit for products, where a group of students are working with a small partner to answer a particular question. These are great opportunities for our students to get practical skills and to get a chance to actually use what they've been learning to answer a question for a community partner who often doesn't have the capability to do that research themselves. So for example, one of our long-term student-led research projects is embedded in our School of Environment and Natural Resources Sciences, where we have environmental type students helping lake associations do environmental surveys of their lakes. So a skill that nobody on the Lake Association would have, but our students have learned that skill. It's a good chance to practice, and then also to practice their soft skills in terms of pitching an idea, communicating with a partner, understanding what the role of the students are with that partner, and then presenting the results. So we have lots of opportunities to do research across the college. And then all of that's overseen by the Office of Applied Research and Innovation. Very small office. There's myself and 3 others, but we really punch above our weight in terms of getting grants out and supporting people that work with us. And so this is if anybody's interested in working with the college in applied research, we'd be working with the Office of Applied Research to provide possible grant funding opportunities, to help with in-kind matches, to help with keeping all the reports done on time and that sort of thing. So we offer lots of support to be able to get funding to help support businesses and partners to grow what they're working on. Next slide, please, Jen. And so what we're going to talk about today, or what Jen's going to talk about today, is our Center for Advancement of Water and Wastewater Technologies. It's one of 3 research centers that we have, along with 1 research chair, much like what Trent presented about. And those research centers, the Center for Advancement of Water and Wastewater Technologies, are longstanding. It's kind of the crown jewel of research at the college. But we've also just recently, in the last year, started 2 new research centers, one in innovation and aquaculture production, which will eventually build a small research hatchery on the Lindsay campus. And then the Center for Advancement in Mechatronics and Industrial Internet of Things, which focuses on sensors and bringing all that Internet of Things, like where you can check what's in your fridge from work, if you ever go to work again, instead of just after being down the hall from your fridge. But we can take that sort of technology and put it into an industrial setting. And so these 3 centers actually have a lot of interaction. Some of the obvious ones: fish live in water, and so there's some interaction between aquaculture and what Jen's going to talk about today. But then those 2 industries, water technology and aquaculture, are increasingly using sensors, and so there's also interaction with CAWT as well. So we have this great cluster of three centers that are interested in interrelated things, which we really think are going to improve and increase the amount of applied research we'll be doing over the coming decade. And just one really quick example, I don't want to take too much of Jen's time, but one really quick example of this interaction is we've recently started working with a company that's created an autonomous aquatic drone. So as opposed to one that flies, it's one that swims. And so they are working with the CAP to look at possible market for this drone. And then when we have that information, we will work with CAWT to do any sort of development work to adapt that drone to the aquaculture industry. So that's an interesting example of that interplay between these centers. And so with that, and I said I wouldn't take too much time because really Jen wants to tell us about our crown jewel in our research at Fleming College, the Center for Advancement of Water and Wastewater Technologies. So I'll turn it over to Jen.
Thank you, Brett. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here today to tell you a little bit about our center, CAWT as we call it. So the CWT is a research center, and we are located at Fleming College's Frost campus, which is in Lindsay, Ontario. You might be wondering, who are we and what do we do? Well, we're a research center focused on advancing water and wastewater technologies. So we work with industry partners on solving their innovation challenges. Our goal is to really help companies get their products closer to market by working with them on solving the issues they face. So these projects are entirely led by the goals and objectives of our industry partners. And our projects are often funded through programs specifically available to colleges through the government. We do work with industry partner on a fee-for-service basis when funding is not available. Again, that's something we work with our partners on. For those of you not aware of the CWT, I thought I'd give you a quick history, a little bit of background. So our research center began actually in 2002, and at that time it was really a vision of the Fleming College faculty who had developed a wetland to demonstrate to students on campus how they could be used to treat wetlands. From there, we received some government funding to build our research center, which at that time was entirely focused on constructed wetland treatment. And in 2004, the CWT became operational. Since then, we've really focused on growing and expanding our research in ways that are meaningful to our industry partners. So a couple of highlights that I'd like to include are becoming a Technology Access Center in 2014. So TACs, as we call them, are specialized research and development centers. They're located across Canada, and they're funded by NSERC through a competitive program. There's about 60 TACs in total across Canada, and they range in research from things like food innovation to aerospace technology. In 2016, we began a partnership with NSF, which has allowed us to offer certifications and expand our capacity to host large-scale projects. In 2017, our labs became ISO 17025 accredited. So this accreditation is what allows us to provide partners with the high quality data they need to prove and test their technologies. In 2019, we formed partnerships and received more government funding to expand our research center, both in size and equipment. So we began construction 2 years ago for 2 new facilities. That's our environmental lab and our Minden validation and certification site, which I'll talk about a little bit later on. In 2021, we plan to open and launch these facilities and to offer for the first time ever residential wastewater treatment certification through NSF. Aside from myself, on our core team, we have research scientists, professional engineers, and project managers who all help to develop and see our projects through successfully. In our lab, we have a quality specialist, lab technicians, and lab technologists who not only perform lab analysis and develop methods, they also operate and monitor the technologies we work with. In addition to our core staff, we do hire on contract technicians to work on our projects when we need them. We also include students in our work, of course, through summer positions, co-ops, and internships throughout the year, and in partnership with plumbing college programs. While many people think of wastewater as simply sewage, it is actually a wide range of effluents. So it includes any industry that generates wasted water. So that can be an abattoir, a mine, wetlands, greenhouses, just to name a few. We specialize in not only understanding these various types of wastewater, but in the environmental concerns related to them, and of course, in the types of technologies used to treat them. Since our doors opened in 2004, we have worked on projects not only across Canada, but across the globe. So since opening, we have had several international partners, including university partnerships for training and collaborative research purposes. To help our partners across the development spectrum, we do offer a wide variety of services. So listed here are just a few of the most common examples, and they cover essentially the full spectrum of what we can do. So for example, we have proof of concept. That's when a company comes to us and they say, hey, I have this idea, I want to know if it'll work, all the way up to a validation. That's a company who says, hey, we have this technology, we've tested it, and we know it works. Can you test it as a third party and prove it does what we said? So we do tailor all of our services to each partner depending on their stage of development so that the services we offer are not only unique to them, but help get them to market sooner. Okay, so certifications, I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining certifications to you and why they're important. And that's because we are quite proud of having the ability to be able to offer these. So certifications ensure that the products we use meet the standards for the protection of the public's health. In Canada and the United States, wastewater and water treatment technologies do require certification before they can enter the market. As a certification facility, through NSF, we can provide both NSF and B&Q certifications, and that's for residential water and gray water treatment systems. Residential wastewater is domestic water from a household, while gray water is the relatively cleaner wastewater from a household, and that would include wastewater from your showers, sinks, and washing machines, but not your toilets. NSF certification is required for many US states, so if you wanted to enter the US market, depending on the state, you may require NSF certification. B&Q certification, on the other hand, is required for Ontario or in Ontario for on-site residential wastewater treatment systems. Again, those are systems that are designed to treat domestic or household wastewater. A major difference between NSF and B&Q is that B&Q requires an additional 6 months of testing in a cold climate to meet our Canadian standards. Of importance to note, we are one of only 2 providers in Canada who can offer B&Q certification, and we are the only NSF certification provider in Canada to offer residential wastewater and gray water treatment certifications. So this is just a quick table outlining the certifications we offer through NSF. You can see here B&Q certifications are 1 year, NSFs are 6 months. All of these, with the exception of NSF 350 at the bottom, are completed at our Minden facility. NSF 350 takes place on our Frost campus in our greenhouse. Okay, so I wanted to give you a really quick case study of our very first certification to NSF ever, and that was completed in 2019. So here we worked on a multi-year project with a company called Greater Water Systems on their Greater Home system. So that system collects shower and bath water so that it can be reused for toilet consumption. We first validated their prototype before we certified it to NSF 350 in 2019, making it the first and the only system at that time to hold that designation. Since our work with Greater, they have gone on to not only win multiple awards, they have patented their technology, and most importantly, they have successfully sold it throughout the Canadian and US market. To help our partners achieve their goals, we have a number of facilities both on campus and off-site where we perform applied research projects. We do also have the ability to work remotely and on field site locations. On campus, we have an ISO 17025 accredited lab, which is dedicated to the analysis of water and wastewater samples. We do also do plant tissue and soil analysis, along with some other air quality and biogas testing. We have a wide array of instrumentation that allow us to perform standard methods, as well as develop methods for new and emerging technologies. And in these labs, we also perform small scale testing for the smaller applied research projects like your proof of concept studies. I often get asked what parameters we can run, so I thought I'd give you a kind of an intensive list, but I can send you more details later if you want the exact method. So here is our list of accredited methods in wastewater. Many of these are regulated in the wastewater industry, including biochemical oxygen demand, E. coli, and total suspended solids. In addition to accredited methods, we do offer unaccredited testing on over 25 parameters. So unaccredited just means that they're not added to our scope of accreditation, but they have been validated and verified within our lab following quality assurance and quality control procedures. For those of you who have a keen eye, you might have noticed we do have some parameters listed as accredited and unaccredited, and that's because they use different methods. So depending on the project and the partner's needs, we may opt for one method over another. Again, if anyone has interest in learning specifically what methods we use, I can send those through an email later on. Our lab is equipped with both standard and of course high-end laboratory instrumentation, some of which is listed here. We have dedicated laboratory technicians and technologists who run and maintain these pieces. We of course use these instruments to analyze samples for both the accredited and non-accredited methods, and we use them of course to develop new methods, which we do each and every year. Much like our instrumentation, we do have specialized equipment that allows us to perform a wide range of applied research projects for our partners. This is a really short list of some of the more unique pieces we have. So just to highlight a few, we have composite autosamplers. These are programmable and they allow us to collect wastewater at specific time intervals and for specific volumes or flow rates. So that allows us to capture treatment data over specified hours, days, or weeks. We also have environmental chambers, and these are spaces that control for light, temperature, and humidity. We also have large heated tanks equipped with pumps and level sensors, and those would allow us to do the full-scale wastewater treatment projects that we offer. Located on campus and just adjacent to our labs, we have a greenhouse where we can perform project work. So here's where we would install technologies and perform testing as needed for our partners. This facility is equipped with floor grates, which allows all of the wastewater used to go back to sewer where it then gets treated. We do also have the ability to pump wastewater from our holding tanks, which are located just outside of this facility, so that we can analyze technologies using real world wastewater when synthetic wastewater is not really the best option. Located just outside of the greenhouse is our constructed wetland where it all began. So this wetland uses both horizontal and vertical flows to treat wastewater. The wetland has compartmentalized cells, meaning if a partner would like to introduce different types of wastewater or different concentrations of wastewater, we can run those through the wetland. We also have the ability to install technologies in line with that wetland and evaluate them outdoors. This wetland does have holding tanks where we can have different sources of wastewater hauled in. And as with the greenhouse, all of the wastewater we use here does go back to sewer where it gets treated. Located further south on campus, we have 25 experimental ponds dedicated to research. So here we can analyze treatment systems under real world conditions. Each pond varies in depth and size. They are also all lined to keep the water within them separated. Our newest facility and soon to open environmental lab was funded through the CFI. So this facility is a fully functioning and independent lab with 3 separate areas to host projects. We also have a number of specialized pieces of equipment to perform research here, including in our facility are 3 environmental chambers. We also have secure outdoor concrete pads that are equipped with heated tanks to allow us to perform verification testing of technologies. So this space really gives us the opportunity to perform with more industry partners at a larger scale. our Minden facility, as we call it. So this is where all of our validation and certifications will take place. It is located at the Minden Wastewater Treatment Plant, and it is in the final stages of testing before it becomes operational. So this site is going to be used to validate and certify full-scale residential wastewater treatment technology. It has the space to hold 6 technologies. This site was specifically selected because it has very little industrial wastewater, which is of course important if you're testing residential technologies. And it's also far enough north that it meets the B&Q requirements for cold testing. So I'm going to give you a very quick virtual tour of this site to show you how it works. Inside our building, located at the Minden Wastewater Treatment Plant, we have 6 dosing tanks, which allow us to run technologies simultaneously. So these dosing buckets allow us to run them at varying schedules, meaning that the technologies don't have to all be started at the same time, and they can be dosed at different stages of the day. Next, we have custom-built tanks with heaters, level sensors, meters, and probes to make sure that the wastewater we use in our experiments is meeting the requirements of the standards that we are testing to. If not, we have the ability to augment that wastewater following methods, again, that have been approved by NSF. So here we have a settling tank and a centrifuge used to concentrate solids. So depending on the concentration of wastewater, several cycles may be needed to increase the solids content. The settling tank is, of course, a slower approach because it uses gravity to increase solids, while the centrifuge can work quickly. However, it requires in-person operation due to its complexity and their safety requirements with using that piece. So we can run these systems together, or we can run them independently, depending on the amount of solids we want and how quickly we need them. We do have a PLC and remote sensors on site, and that allows us to check on the system virtually and make sure it is operating and functioning as it should. If not, we get alarmed that there is an issue, and at that time we can send technicians on site if they're not already on there. Next, we have a very small on-site lab where we can perform very simple testing like pH and temperature. From here, we would preserve the samples and then transport them back into our lab at Lindsay for full analysis. So we are now in the very final stages of getting the site operational and expect within the next few weeks to have it up and running continuously, at which time we will begin hosting projects. We do need to finish characterizing the wastewater and figuring out what cycles we need or how many cycles we need to concentrate the wastewater to get it to the levels that we need. So I think I will close with that. And this is just a slide outlining some of the partnerships we have, some of the associations we're a part of. I think you guys now have a really good understanding of who we are, the services that we offer. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening and for learning a little bit about our research center.
Jen and Brett, thank you very much for that. And we do have a few minutes actually for questions, which of course can be addressed to any of our presenters today. I do see actually that we have one question up on the board, and I'll ask you actually answer it for everybody, but basically is if you want to work with Trent University or Fleming College, you can reach out to them directly, or you can actually reach out to the Innovation Cluster. And we, as part of our offerings, we actually facilitate the introductions, and we'll work with you, of course, as part of your business plan to make sure your business plan and your research plan line up together. And we have a second question, which is there must be custom software and data analysis to do this work. Can you discuss that? So I'm assuming that Jane has addressed that to maybe to Jen. Can we just talk a little bit about some of the analysis software that you are using to do research in the facility of CAWT?
So we have research scientists on staff. All of our projects are so different that everything really is tailored. When I said that, I truly meant it. So I mean, it would really depend on what the project was, but each research scientist would analyze the data. I mean, I don't know that there's a specific software that we use, if I'm being honest. Maybe Brett could have a better idea. Brett has a modeling background, or a stats background, I should say.
I think with when you're looking at the data, most of them are working with standard statistical tools like Excel or some sort of stats package. But when we're pulling data off of the systems, that's where we can sometimes get into unique. We need to have certain sorts of software to talk to the I'm not going to say that right, gas chromatography system, so on and so forth. And so there is a lot of really specific software that we use to talk to the equipment.
Excellent, thank you for that. Are there any other, oh, here we go. Another. So at what stage would we approach CAWT or Trent University? So I'll answer that a bit. I mean, typically when you're working through your business, if you're an innovation cluster client, you're obviously going to go through, you will have developed your business plan. You're going to start working out what the intent of your commercially viable product is. You will have figured out your financial model, whether it's a for-profit or not-for-profit. We support organizations that do both, but basically you're going to put that model together. And then when it really gets into the research side of things, we would facilitate an introduction depending on which type of research. Obviously, if it's water and wastewater, it's CAWT. There's also the Water Quality Institute at Trent University as well. If you're looking for building your own testing requirements, so if you actually want to build a different set of testing requirements where you need access to a large amount of machines, they've got a great variety of different water testing equipment, and they can, a lot of times what Trent is used for is actually to develop a standard that then gets used by other labs that are more commercial labs that would have, you know, one or two of the exact same type of machine. And of course, if you're working on any of the social side, I mean, Naomi's team's got lots of access as well, and a great number of you know, doctorate candidates that are working through research. So maybe I'll turn over to Naomi just to say a few words. So I see Naomi's nodding her head.
No, I was just thinking that when you think about where research and development fits in an innovation cycle, there's a few places where it can be really useful. And one certainly is in terms of testing and refining a model that you bring to the table, but the other place is in terms of really understanding in a more fulsome way the problem that you're trying to solve or address, which is earlier on in the innovation cycle. And so there's a few different places where it might be useful to start a conversation with researchers or research teams, research institutes, whether at Fleming or at Trent. And I think it's worth inquiring about both.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. So just a question to Trent, what type of research do you normally focus on? And I think Dr. Kathy is still on the line, I think.
I am. Am I unmuted? Finally. Okay, I wasn't able to unmute. So
right. Yeah, just maybe if you wouldn't mind just talking about the Office of Research and all the different types of research, because obviously there's a very extensive amount at the university.
We do have so many different types of research going on across the humanities, the social sciences, and also the sciences. So in the sciences, for example, we have a water quality center. We have which does novel analyses on water samples and looks at, you know, sort of developing new strategies and techniques for analyses. The DNA center and the forensic center is also doing an analytic type work. And particularly on wildlife and wastewater too. So there's lots of overlap there. It's good. It's good work. And then we have a center for aging and society. You know, so there's that social side of it as well. Biomaterials is a huge activity going on at Trent, and that connects really nicely into our Clean Tech Commons. So we're very, very interested in green energy. And new novel approaches to agriculture, whether that's vertical farming and other forms of sustainable farming going forward. So, you know, our facilities are what we try and do is cluster our scientists together, our researchers together, so that they're working in, you know, sort of cohorts or clusters of same interest work. And then, you know, we do really encourage partnerships with industry, but prior to that, as Naomi's mentioning, you know, really starting to help with the entrepreneurial aspects, thinking about the development side of things. So we have ESIC, which is our entrepreneurial center, which connects into the innovation cluster. And it's, you know, there's a lot of supports there, I would say, in our community, writ large. And, you know, I think Rhonda can speak to this as well. You know, we really are working collaboratively to support new businesses and those interested in kind of furthering their thinking and innovation.
Thank you, Kathy. And then, of course, there's obviously computer sciences as well. So there's direct connection.
Yes.
Computer sciences students, lots of great students in that area as well. And then
we have a co-op program in computer science as well.
Yeah, so really anything that fits into that spectrum. And of course, the nice thing about Trent is, it is a fairly small university, but because of that, the nice thing is the disciplines a lot of times cross over. So for example, a lot of business students might be doing a double major. And so it's a lot easier to do that work at Trent University versus some of the larger institutions, which are very much siloed. And so what we do see is, for example, environmental sciences and business can be put together and things like that. So I think, again, reach out to the innovation cluster, and we're happy to facilitate the different connections into the university and the college both.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Can I add just one thing, which
Yes.
is just that one of the things we know really inspires innovation is interdisciplinary opportunities. And so you might think that a social scientist, for example, may not have that much interest in a particular tech development, but some of my most important partners are technologists. And the person who I work most closely with at Children's Aid Toronto is the head of IT. So it's actually often at these surprising junctures that really great work happens, and work that fundamentally addresses, to Brett's point earlier, real world problems. Nothing I've done ever has come from my own, like the literature. It's always come from the problems people bring to me, from the realities of their lives. And so I think be bold in suggesting possible connections that might seem out of the box, because that will probably be where we discover the most exciting opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely right. And obviously the root of good entrepreneurship always comes to, finding a problem and finding a solution to a problem. So you're absolutely right, Naomi. And I think, again, the innovation cluster supports, for-profit organizations, but also not-for-profit. And we have a number of social enterprises as well. And so we do support both. In fact, we've got a social enterprise in environment and technology. So we definitely support both. There isn't a requirement to be obviously on a capital side. It can be on both sides of the equation for sure. Excellent. So I'm going to just end with
Michael.
Yes.
I just noticed somebody in the chat. Can I just mention that there was a question about how we cut costs for students so that we can have students working, but how do we have a My Tax program, which is absolutely fabulous. So this is a matching program where we can employ students and have them become highly qualified personnel with a matching program with the government. And so actually that's a really fabulous strategy that we use. I just wanted to mention it because it came up in the chat. Thanks,
yeah,
Michael.
no, that's great to point out. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Okay, so obviously, thank you very much to all four of our speakers. I think you both did all four of you have done a great job of really demonstrating the research capacity of our region, which we all know that research and knowledge ties directly back into our knowledge economy, which is key. So I also do want to just, before we end, just want to mention to everybody that March 9th at 7 p.m. we have EC Talks. So we have the founder of Tech Girls, Sadie Masafar, who's going to be presenting. So please feel free to go to the innovationcluster.ca website and sign up. Or if you look at the chat, there's a direct link to Eventbrite, which you can easily use to go directly there. So once again, thank you very much for coming to our breakfast, and we appreciate it. And we'll hopefully see you in the next breakfast at the next quarter as well. So thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.